Hello, hello. Hope you guys are doing good. We'll start shortly. Still kind of getting a little bit just set up and prepped, but how are you guys all doing? Hope you all had a good weekend. Hello, Kelzoon. Art time. Yeah. Hello, Jaren. Hello. Hope you had a good weekend, Jaren. I feel like the weather was real nice this weekend, so I don't know. Hopefully, you guys had a good, good weekend and spent the time outside, maybe. What was Saturday? Oh, Saturday felt busy. Oh, I went to the zoo. Actually, no. Saturday's weather was not that great. But yesterday's was great. Yesterday's weather was real nice. Hello, I'm a potato. Nothing like an art stream while animating. Yeah. Animating, I feel like once you lock in and once you get the frames going and whatnot, you just, having something in the background is nice. Although I will say, I feel like a lot of people like to, my friend in particular, he loves to put on a show while drawing. I feel like I tried that one time and I just end up watching the show. So I can't have like an actual show or a movie in the background because I feel like a lot of people do that, but I can't do that. Tried it, did not work. It was a bad idea. Yeah, I once put Back to the Future in the background, and I just ended up watching Back to the Future. So, yeah, I don't know, maybe I just need to put on something, like, really mindless. I don't know, like Pirates of the Caribbean, but I feel like I would also just end up watching Pirates of the Caribbean, so. Can't do it. Weekend weather was been lightly rainy, so feeling great. Yeah, Saturday was rainy. I did go to the zoo on Saturday, but we went in the afternoon. So it was actually fine. It was a little chilly, maybe a little like kind of cool, but yeah, it was kind of cool. Got to see some neat animals. There's a alligator or a crocodile. I can't tell. It's one of like the smaller ones with the longer snout, and it's not too wide. And it just stood there, like no blinking, no moving. You couldn't even see it breathing, and we were all just wondering, like, me and my friends, like, is it real or is it just a prop that's just kind of sitting there? But it was really cool, and I took a lot of photos because I was like, ooh, reference photos. Nothing like a good reference photo at a zoo. So yeah. Oh, cool! You got to meet Faye's new puppy. Nice. Yeah, she sent me a photo of her new dog. And yeah, it looks really fluffy. Looks really cool. Hopefully Pongo and her new dog get together, get along. What am I saying? Hope they get along with each other. Gotta play the Subway Surfers video. Oh my gosh, yeah, it's like that. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie though, I do end up watching the video game or the game that they put on the side sometimes, and I'm like, oh, I feel like this is bad. This is not good. This does not bode well for me or the future generations. Well, either way, I guess we'll get started. Hello everybody and welcome to our live stream. Hope you guys had a good weekend. If this is your first time joining us, hello, and if you're joining us once again, my name is Josh and I'm one of the instructors over at Wing Canvas. And if you don't know who we are, at Wing Canvas, we are a YouTube channel that provides free art content for you guys weekly with our live streams, and also we try to pump out as many kind of short tutorial videos as much as possible. I believe this week we just released one of my videos, which is how to paint with an analogous palette. So if you've always been wanting to spice up your, I don't know, painting palette or your still life studies, but not just painting the actual colors of the objects that you're painting, then maybe check out that video. So in that one I demonstrated with a skull. I feel like skulls are always a fun one to do, and you can always change the colors with skulls and it doesn't look too bad, it doesn't look too odd. So yeah, definitely go check out the video. But we don't just make YouTube videos, we are also in actual online school. So if you always wanted to level up your art skills or just want to have kind of a reliable community and instructors that will give you feedback, definitely check out our website for the wide range of class offerings that we have. I'm not the only instructor, but I do specialize mostly in drawing and painting, character design, and animation. So if you do want to improve on those aspects, then you can definitely check out some of my classes. And yeah, and if you're joining us for our stream, definitely like and subscribe. Like I said, we stream on Saturdays and Mondays, so it's always a good idea to subscribe and ring that notification bell so you know when we stream the next time. And you also get notified of when we do kind of specialized streams, just like today. But I will say the best way of being notified of these special types of streams is actually being in touch with our social media platforms and Discord more specifically. Discord is where we announce like everything. So any kind of our art demos, shout outs, even these special events just like this with the submission links for you guys to submit your pieces in. All of that goes up on Discord for you to find. So yeah, definitely check out our Discord and even follow us on Instagram. And also, also just a big shout out to our Discord community in general. Anyways, we are reaching, I forgot, actually there was an updated number. I forgot, Jaren let me know what number it was, but on my script here it says 500, but I think you said 900, although I don't know if it was a joke now, because now I'm thinking like, oh, you know that whole Dragon Ball Z, it's over 900. But yeah, we have a lot, we have a big community over on Discord. Over 9,000. Yeah, it's a big community over there. So definitely check it out. Everybody's super welcoming, everybody is super kind, and people are always sharing their stuff there, so definitely check it out. And yeah, I think that's about it. So we'll get started. Oh, also shout out to our Patreon members for supporting. And so if you like what we do here on YouTube and you want to support us further, definitely just check us out on Patreon. If you'd like to just support us monetarily, we always kind of put up pieces and also class recordings from our actual live classes there. If you want to learn but you aren't able to attend the live sessions, we have class recordings over on Patreon. And I believe that's it. So 9,000, it's a real number, not a joke. Hey, that's cool. That's awesome. Actually, then I'm kind I guess it was like maybe a slight typo. 500k subscribers. Oh my gosh. I feel like I've been skimming like words way too quickly now. I read it as we have 500,000 members on our Discord, but we have a big Discord community and are almost 500k subscribers. So I guess subscribers is for YouTube. So we have a growing YouTube community, which is great. It's always good to see that people are checking us out and supporting us. So yeah, today, like I said, this week is a little bit of a different stream. If you didn't know, today is a submission style type of stream. And if you're like wondering, oh, what does that mean? It means that we kind of put out a kind of a submission document out maybe a month ago. And we kind of asked our audience like, hey, if you have any fantasy paintings that you want to have Josh critique, well, like me, critique it and give you some kind of feedback and advice, then submit your pieces for feedback. So this stream for today, we're actually just going to go over what our audience and our community has been working on and just giving them a little bit of a shout out and some love and also giving them some feedback. So we got a whole collection of pieces, some from people who are very experienced and some who are a little bit more on the beginner side. And yeah, we're gonna go through as many as we can. I collected a good handful, but if we have some extra time, then we'll kind of go through more. But yeah, there were some good submissions. There was a good handful of them, not too many, so I feel like we'll be able to go through a good amount. But yeah, I guess we'll just jump right into it. Almost 500,000, yeah, it's awesome. Let's see. Just gonna find it. Okay, so the first one up. I'm just gonna need to grab all the files so I can read what the people sent. Okay, the first one is... Alright, this one. We'll go with this one first. First one that we have here is by Killermilk. Let's see, what did they say? They said they have a hard time drawing multiple people in one page, and especially when they all have different poses, and do I have any tips for that? So thank you, Killermilk, for submitting your piece here. I feel like this is an awesome image right here. Oh, also give me a quick second. I'm just gonna save the file real quick. I didn't get a chance to save it. Let's see. Fantasy submissions. Oh yeah. Yeah, so this one is by Killermilk, and here are their characters. Not too much of a description or breakdown on who these characters are and I guess their backstory or the world, but it looks kind of, I don't know, it kind of reminds me a little bit of One Piece, like the art, the style, and the way the face is drawn. Don't know if that was like the inspiration, but definitely very anime inspired. Almost like the body type actually reminds me a little bit of like Dragon Ball Z a little. But yeah, really cool poses here, really cool character designs. I really love this, I don't know, just all the shapes that are happening here. One Piece and DBZ style. Yeah, definitely for sure. Yeah, Killermilk is a killer name. It is. That name is a really, really cool name. Okay, so let's see. The things you wanted me to go over. Maybe we'll just like take a look. Write it down. Let's see. Drawing multiple people. Let's get the brushes. Let's see. I guess it was the request. The request? I don't know if request is necessarily the right way, but let's see. Drawing multiple people. I apologize ahead of time for my messy handwriting. And then different poses. Different poses. So let's tackle the first one, which is drawing multiple people. Oh, so also, by the way, some of these pieces might have like overlapping, I guess, it's not issues. Issues I feel like is not the right word, but I guess is the critique, I guess. A lot of these people, a lot of the submissions have overlapping, maybe like kind of obstacles or hurdles that they're trying to figure out. So we might give out some like very repetitive or like repeating tips, but I feel like every piece and every painting or every design is going to be slightly different. So even though the tip might be somewhat similar, I feel like how it applies to each piece is going to be a little bit different, and that's also going to be the same thing for all of you guys when you guys are tackling your pieces. How you go about solving the problem of designing a character, composing your shot is going to be different. It's really hard to kind of, I guess, replicate or imitate what other people are doing and take the way that they solved it and solve your piece in the exact same way. But yeah, that's kind of like the great thing about fixing submissions or kind of critique sessions, is that you can kind of hopefully learn a little bit and apply it to your own piece, but you're still ultimately going to have to solve and problem solve your own designs and illustrations. But you'll learn a little bit more by attending these kind of critique sessions. Yeah. The hardest thing with drawing multiple characters posing is that the poses have to be consistent, make sense with the others. If not, then they look like they're just slapped onto the drawing. Yeah, that's a good point. You know, let's write that down. Let me see. Let's just move this down. Oh, okay, good. I was like, wait, did I draw it on the same layer? Okay, so I think with drawing people, I think the way I like to think of it is that you can come into the sticker book problem. So hopefully you guys know what I'm talking about. I don't know if they still make these. I feel like they still make these. Sticker book problem. And the reason why I call this the sticker book problem is because the sticker book problem is, I don't know if you guys have these, they're kind of books with a pre-established background to them, and then they'll come up with like a page or a sheet full of like 10 or like a dozen characters on them, and you just basically peel the characters off of the sticker sheet and you just stick them onto the book. And it looks really cool. It kind of makes it feel very customizable and very personal for how you place the characters, but it doesn't feel like they're tied together or that the composition isn't really quite the same. It doesn't have a certain cohesiveness to it. So the sticker book problem, the reason why it looks a little bit odd is maybe because of the perspective isn't really quite cohesive. It has a little bit like, yeah, what Jaren is saying, like it makes the characters feel a little bit like they're floating, and maybe it's because the poses just kind of feel like each character is like doing their own thing. Each character feels isolated. It's kind of funny. They feel isolated, yet they're all together. So perspective-wise, what I would say is you'll want to just make sure that when you draw the characters together, that they are kind of that they're kind of not on the same plane. So I think you already got this part down. I would maybe push this character up, maybe a little bit. So let's see, let's put it here. So I would maybe take this character and put their legs, maybe have it end like here, so that the character feels like they're standing in the same plane or the same ground. I think that would be kind of helpful at the very least. I know that for a pose or a kind of a composition like this, you're not going for anything crazy. The perspective's not going to be like super wild or complicated. You're just trying to put the characters and assemble them together. But I still think the most important part is thinking about the ground plane. So how are these characters all standing on a related kind of ground? So you want to ask yourself, are they standing on the same plane? On the same ground. And the other thing is that your main character is probably going to be the one that's lowest on the page. So this makes it seem like the character's up front and center. They're the closest to the character. So you'll usually want your main character to be lowest on the page. Whereas the secondary characters, you'll want them to be slightly higher, so it almost feels like they're standing behind the character. And they're not like, I don't know, clipping the main character. And I feel like that's kind of the main problem or issue that can come up sometimes, is that when you draw multiple characters, if you don't get the ground plane kind of fixed properly, the secondary and third character, where they're standing might feel like it's intruding on the space of the first character. So this is always going to be your primary focus. And you'll want the feet higher. Higher. I almost sang the Kanye West song again. Every time I say the word higher, get the feet higher. the Kanye West song gets in my head. To make them feel like they are behind the main character. I think this is like just like a good thing to kind of maybe keep in mind, especially if you're more in the I think if you're more in the beginner side of things and you're not really trying to go for anything too complicated, I think this is just a good rule of thumb to stick with or think about. So yeah, this deals more with the perspective, especially if there's no background. A big part of it is just where the feet are placed. So I think this character on the right is really good in relationship to the first character. Second character might be getting a little bit tad tight or a little bit close to the first character, so I would just kind of put her a little bit higher, or put them a little bit higher. And then the next one is floating. Now, floating is not really too much you can do because it really kind of depends on what type of sequence or scene that you're trying to draw. So maybe what could help with floating is to add like cast shadows. So this one, I would say like maybe cast shadows. So you want to add, oops, cast shadows maybe. Could be a good one. And yeah, I feel like that's kind of mostly it. So each character feels isolated. Yeah, I feel like there's not really too much that you could do with this one. But how do we get for the different poses? So this one is something that I always recommend you guys, which is to look for references. Look for references. Look for references and kind of build upon the references. Build upon references. So what this means is that you're not necessarily trying to copy the reference. You're kind of using it to guide and inspire you. Let me see if I had one. Did I upload it? Oh, I did. Nice. Let me see. So this is a piece that I did for one of our classes, actually. I can use this as an example. So this is a boxer character that I did not too long ago. Oh, give me a sec. Oh, here you guys are. Okay, lost the live stream tab for a bit. But yeah, I feel like when doing references, a lot of people just kind of grab a fighting pose reference or whatever kind of pose reference that they want, and they just copy it. And what I would recommend is that when you are looking up references to build your character off of, don't just look for one and stick to one reference, but instead find kind of a mood board or kind of multiple poses to grab different elements from. So, and you can even see most of the inspiration is coming from the guy on the left, like this guy, but you can kind of see that I'm not exactly copying my drawing one-to-one to the reference. I've changed the head angle a little bit. I've even like changed the expression, but it's definitely very inspired by the guy on the left. So like the smirk, the more chiseled square jaw is inspired by it. The nose is definitely inspired by it. But as I was drawing and designing my character, I'm kind of branching away a little bit as I'm like designing it and kind of like picking and choosing what direction to head into. And the pose is definitely the same, but what I also did was I found another boxing pose where I liked the stance and I liked the balance of this one a little bit more. So what I kind of was showing to the students was that this one has a bit more of like a C curve. I don't know if you can see it, but there's actually a really light blue line cutting across the character. So this is more of like a C curve in the pose, whereas this one has a bit more of like a slight S curve. So it's, again, really, really subtle, but it's a really slight S curve happening on this pose here. So I like this one more, and so I reapproached the pose a little bit to get it more in this kind of more upright stance rather than this more hunched over stance. So I changed it, and these were some more like style guides of just like, oh, I like a more simplified style that I want to do for this one. So I took this one and this one to help kind of just visually guide me. Again, not necessarily copying it, but kind of having it be a driving force for the direction I want to head into. And a lot of people, I think, sometimes don't realize how much our inspirations I know. Wow, who knew? Our inspirations inspire us, but it does play a huge role in how we make a lot of the smaller decisions when we draw. So things like our line work, maybe the colors, the shapes, the anatomy, the proportions that we use. All those things are very much inspired by the things that we love and grew up with. So that could be like movies, shows, comic books, manga, anime, artwork out on the streets, advertisement posters, maybe even like the cereal boxes that we grew up eating. All those things have a subtle kind of subconscious influence on what we like and what we don't like. And I feel like when you are doing a pose piece like this one, and you are kind of feeling like your poses are maybe a little bit stuck or they're a little bit stiff, I think what would really help is to definitely look up some references, not only for how to draw the pose, but also look up inspiration from like the pieces that you really love. So if you're heavily influenced by DBZ and One Piece, then I definitely think it would be a good idea to look up how Oda, for example, draws like those illustration pieces. I don't know how much he does this. I'm not super caught up on One Piece, but I remember grabbing like, or my sister got like a few volumes of One Piece as like a birthday present or something, and I remember reading through it, and I found like in between the chapters he did a lot of these double page or illustrated spreads for One Piece as kind of like chapter markers, and they were like always super dynamic, really cool. And if you're trying to aim for that, and if you're trying to go for that, it's not that, well, I don't know if Oda just made it up off the top of his head, but if you have a hard time making it up off the top of your head, then I definitely highly encourage that you find some references, like this one. If you're going for like a fighting pose, might be good to find someone doing something similar. And I always recommend that if you don't have, or if you can't find a reference pose, that's okay. You can always pose yourself. So for example, this one feels a little bit odd just because the arm, the way it's bent, I feel like maybe it would be closer to here. And maybe I would put it like that. And I don't know if you want the backhand to be a part of it. So also I would need like reference too. So maybe it would be like this. And the thumb would be outside. So the thumb is pointing outside, outwards. Oops. And maybe this arm here, I get that we're tucking it in, but the thumb I feel like should also be on this side. And I think we would maybe see a little bit of the other arm as well, just to help guide the decisions. And I think we would see a little bit of the forearm here. So I feel like it's really close, but it really comes down to like checking references or even just taking photos of yourself just to see if you're heading in the right direction. So that's really the thing for poses. I think sometimes we might want an easier answer for poses. And I think for me, at the very least, what's helped a lot is to just look at photos, find photos, do photo studies, or take photos of yourself and use yourself as reference. And also, hello, Faye. Glad you're able to join us. Also, I hear your puppies, Jaren, got to see your puppy. Hope your new puppy and Pongo are getting along. Let's see. Still baffles me how non-artists say you must draw from memory and be able to draw on the fly, while the artists with 20 years of experience worked on successful series say use ref. Yeah, exactly. I use this example a lot because I thought it was kind of funny, where one time I had someone ask me how to draw dolphins, and I said, oh, I don't know. I've never really drawn dolphins before. And I think the response was like, what? You don't know how to draw a dolphin, or you don't know what a dolphin looks like? It's like, no, I know what a dolphin looks like, but I don't know how to draw a dolphin. And I think the funny thing is, yeah, a lot of people think that artists, what makes you successful as an artist is being able to draw anything, but that's not necessarily true. I think what makes you a successful artist or a versatile artist is being able to draw anything when you do the research and when you do the work, when you're able to kind of find references in any subject matter and being able to kind of extract the necessary information due to your observational skills and your ability to simplify objects so that you can draw anything. not that you should be able to draw anything and everything. Because, yeah, there's going to be some subject matters and topics that you've never done before. And so you're going to have a limited amount of visual knowledge and draftsmanship knowledge about those topics. But I think that's totally normal, and I think that's totally fine. So, yeah, poses, I think looking at different references, definitely what I highly recommend. The other thing might be also to consider the personality traits of your character. So consider the personality traits, and this is one that I think a lot of people don't take into consideration a lot of, which is a lot of the times us as kind of maybe art enjoyers or just the fandom, we look at a finished piece and go like, wow, look at that, they drew like all these cool poses. But I think the thing that we kind of miss out on a lot is actually the fact that if all your characters are doing cool poses, then everyone's just doing a cool pose and there's nothing really being said about the character. So if all your characters are doing the exact same fighting pose, kind of like the Power Rangers example, then it kind of shows that all these characters are capable fighters and they're part of like maybe a team. But if you're trying to create a more wide cast of characters, it might be a good idea to consider, well, what are the different characters' abilities? What are their strengths? What are their weaknesses? What are their personality traits? Are one of your characters more shy and the other characters more kind of confident? And so how does a confident character pose in difference to a more shy character? And they can still be posing as a team, but considering who they are and their body language is a really good one. So I saw that. Someone said body language. Yeah, body language is a big one. And mannerism. I would say like mannerism is also a good one. Mannerism. And so I think a lot of us kind of just go like, oh, I'm just going to draw a character in a cool pose. But try to think a little bit deeper and further than that and ask yourself, okay, my character is supposed to be a little bit shy. Well, how does a shy person pose? Oh, my character is a little bit of a nerdy, like a tech person who kind of stays at home the whole time. They're not necessarily shy, but they're more in tune with just doing their hobby or their tasks. So how does that person pose? And if they were to kind of be dropped into a fighting field with their friend who is a little bit more of a fighter character, how would they compose themselves and how would they pose? And again, this goes back to references, goes back to looking at your inspirations and seeing how they also approached and tackled different fighting poses, or even just like a set of characters and putting them together. One of my biggest inspirations is Bleach, and I think Bleach and Naruto and One Piece, back in the heyday when Shonen Jump allowed their artists, or I don't know if they allowed their artists, or I think the artists just had a lot more, I don't know, maybe time or discipline to do these crazy page spreads or illustration pieces. I feel like those illustration pieces were such an inspiration for just drawing cool sequences or illustrations that communicated characters' personality traits, but also allowed them to pose in a very cool way. Because ultimately, all the characters in Bleach are kind of cool, but they're all cool in different ways, if that makes sense. Like, Orihime is a little bit more timid, a little bit more shy, whereas like Renji, the red-haired guy, is a little bit more like aloof and standoffish, but also still kind of cool. And then Ichigo is the main character, right? So Ichigo is kind of always up front and center, also standing cool. The middle guy would be posing a little bit like to the side with his blade. Yeah, it could be that too. I think maybe one last small thing. Let's move this up. I think you bring up a good point, which is just different angles would be good to just help make it feel more like a cohesive piece. So try to draw different angles. Angles. I think this would be it. This is like a good tip. So I think maybe let me just expand. I didn't know how much drawing space we'd need, so I didn't make it too big, but let's just make it a little bit larger. And I know we're running a little bit long on this one, but I felt like there was a lot of good topics, a lot of good things to kind of go over. So if I were to like recompose this shot, I do think this one's the most dynamic. So I think we can keep this one. So I like that your characters kind of pose this way. And maybe, well, they're looking down a little bit. So it'd be more like this. Then you have like the body pose. Also, I'm also not a fighter. I mean, I did Taekwondo as a kid, but I'm not a fighter. So I'm not too attuned with how poses should be. So again, that goes into like looking up references and seeing how fighters pose. I think that is kind of like a funny thing that always baffles me when people kind of just assume that just because you draw, you're able to draw anything. And it's like, it's true maybe to a certain extent, but not maybe like off the top of my head. I won't be able to draw just like anything. If you ask me to draw a tank, I'm gonna be like, let me get back to you on that. I don't really know how to draw a tank. So I'm gonna have to do a little bit of research to figure out how a tank looks. Maybe even like this character, you could try putting this character looking to maybe like 3/4 a little bit. Could be kind of cool, maybe. Also, hello, Holly Cat. Not sure if it shows up. Oh, well, I guess you gotta stay tuned. I can make no promises, but I will say I did pick a good selection of people, so we'll see where it goes. Okay, so I think like maybe the hand could be here. I think it could still be like a fist. And maybe we can have like the hand holding the sword, and then the sword would be like here. And I think like we can still have the wide stance, which I think would be cool. I think it's like a good power stance. It's always a good power stance. Wide legs open a little bit, and so you can kind of see this character's not too up front, still considering the spacing of the legs. And then this character, at first, you know what? At first I thought it was I feel like it was a flying character, like it had wings. But if it's not a character with wings, then it might be good to maybe just draw this character from the side angle, maybe. They can still also be looking towards the camera. Excuse me. Sorry. Or maybe we can space out this character a little bit so they're not too close to the other characters. Still have them all standing in relationship to one another. But yeah, like if that's the hair and whatnot, then we can stand here. And let's see, another boot maybe could be like around here. This is where their foot might be. So again, I'm still drawing them a little bit separate from each other, like the ground plane and everything. But hopefully the posing and like how they're set up together allows them to feel like they're part of the same illustration. So this is something that you can maybe consider. Maybe, you know, this person maybe we're looking at the back of this person. I think that would be even cooler. It's like, well, oh, we're looking at the back. And the hands here, we'll shift the hand here. And the leg maybe will be back here, obscured by the other character. So maybe more something like this. So then this way the characters feel like they're kind of posing together in a way. And let's just move this character. I feel like this one's starting to feel a little bit isolated. They feel isolated just because I feel like it's a little bit smaller in size. So not necessarily, if they're meant to be a bit shorter, that's totally fine. But I'm just going to make them closer together. So it makes it feel like they're meant to be posed together as a set, as a group. So I maybe might put the foot a little bit closer down, and then this person's foot will be like kind of obscured. So this is maybe what you could go for. Or this is also how I would plan a pose, which is definitely do some rough drafts beforehand, definitely do some planning ahead of time. I always recommend not to just kind of wing it, but to do a little bit of planning, assemble them together, see if it works as a composition before committing to something, or committing to a design. The Monkey King greater than the heads. They got your back. Yeah, exactly. So, yeah. Killermilk, thank you for getting us started. And I guess we took ended up taking a much longer time with yours than I expected. But yeah, really awesome piece here. Oh, also, Jaren, let me know where people can submit or like ask for a ticket. I know that we do this. It's a little bit new for me as well, so I believe people can submit a ticket to ask for their draw overs. So if you want this, I'll be sharing, I think, or maybe I'll just share all of them. I don't know. Well, we'll see. I don't think we'll have too much where I'll need a ticket, but maybe I'll keep in touch with you. Killermilk. Okay, so thank you, Killermilk, for submitting. Let's see, on to the next person. Hopefully we don't take too much time, as with Killermilk, ended up spending a little bit too much time. Not a bad thing, by the way. It's just more time than expected. Okay. Yeah, make sure you're on Discord. I think I'll just upload all of them so you guys can take a look at the notes if you want to. Okay, so the next person that we have here is Cloudziro, and let's see what they had to say. They said, I've really struggled with the coloring and got really demotivated after finishing the color of the dragon, gave up with everything else. Is there an easier way to do it? But I think I've done okay with some of the background. Yeah, I think this piece is like really awesome. The composition on this is really, really cool. Also, thank you for submitting. I think this is an awesome piece right here. I really love the composition. I will say, I am a little bit confused as to what is happening. Oh, is this a Is this a rock? Oh, okay. Because I was a little bit confused as to how, like, what is happening with the dragon here, if it was like cut off or this was the design of the dragon. So I think this is supposed to be like the cave ceiling, if I were to guess correctly. But yeah, I think honestly, like, really cool composition. It's really grand. I really like how you sold the size of the dragon by having a small, like a really, really small character here. And I think you did a really good job with just the detailing of the rock to showcase the size, again, the size of the dragon. So a lot of people sometimes will omit this or kind of miss out on this part of the detailing when you guys do more larger set pieces like this. But the details of like the size of the cracks, the size of the rocks, or if you're drawing someone on a field, it could be even the size of the tree or flowers or the pieces of like the blades of grass themselves, can really help to sell the sense of scale. And I don't know if it's still up for my on my profile page. Let me see if it is. Just give me a sec. Instructors and team. Oh. Because actually, if you take a look at I believe one of the pieces that I've shared. Oh, I got swapped out. Oops. I guess it's not there anymore. Let me see if I can find it on my Instagram page then. Unless I'm also signed out from my little self plug. Not a. Oh, I guess it feels like a shameless self plug. But but the reason why I want to show a piece from my own collection is because I actually did something similar to this, not with a dragon, but I did something similar for Inktober one time. Where it's like the massive cave and there's a lot of kind of this massive kind of structure in there. And there's like a small person. So here is the piece that I'm kind of talking about. You can't really quite see it too much, but if you go, you can follow me on Instagram. Again, not to plug, you don't have to follow me. But this is a piece that I did for Inktober, I think like years ago. Oh my gosh, this is a 6-year-old piece. But one thing when it comes to like cave paintings, or even kind of like getting across a sense of scale, and especially if there's only like a singular light source. So for your scenery here, I don't know if it looks like it's a fairly dim lighting, and it looks like if your character is the only thing that's providing a sense of light source, maybe there's a hole in the ceiling that's casting light, but it doesn't really look like that. It looks like your brightest areas are here. So I would recommend maybe having your character also holding like a torch, or maybe there's a torch that he dropped, and so that's illuminating the whole thing. Your character doesn't have to be holding a torch or like a lamp fire. But if that is the case, you'll notice that for mine, when I did this, everything is like really, really dark. So when I inked this, what helped is I just used like black ink. So I kind of went over the whole piece in yellow, and then everything else that's like really, really dark, I just went in it with like just black ink, and I slowly built up the values. So you can see here in the background, also the scan of this is not not the best, but you can see in the background it's like really, really dark, almost like pitch black. And the brightest areas should be the character holding the torch, and the area of like, I don't know, this rock golem or rock statue, and the rock pieces that are closest to the character. Those are things that will be catching the most amount of light, and it will be really, really bright. Maybe almost near white. I would say you don't have to make it like pure white, but it should be getting really close to that. And then as it falls off, you'll see that it slowly drops in value, meaning it gets really dark really easily, and it starts leaning more into the saturated areas. So I don't know if I show the process of this. Wow. And yeah, so I guess I started the piece off like this. I don't remember. This is so long ago. But yeah, you can kind of see how the values are really, really drastic. You want almost a really high contrast in your scenery, especially for a cave, just so that the sense of depth and lighting is consistent. So what I would do for yours is, if I were to adjust it, or actually let me write this down first. So let's say, I guess these are feedbacks. Let's go feedback. One, I would say figure out your light source. Figure out light source. And this is like one of the biggest tips that I always am kind of repeating over and over and over again to a student, or to students, because I feel like a lot of students don't consider this enough sometimes. But your light source is your biggest strength whenever coming up with an environmental scenery. And this could be even as simple as something like, oh, well, what if I'm drawing something outdoors? What is my light source? Well, your light source is going to be the sun. If your character is outside and it's a bright sunny day, then is the sun high up in the sky? Is it just rising? Is it setting? Because that also will help with indicating where the light is going to be pointing at. If the sun is high up in the sky, then most of your shadows are just going to be contact shadows underneath your character, and everything is going to be pretty evenly lit, but very bright and saturated. Whereas when the sun is starting to set, then the tone is going to be warmer, and maybe it might be hitting your characters from the side because the sun is now on the side. So even in like a daytime or an outdoor natural setting, figuring out the light source is really, really important. So in this case, figure out the light source. So I would ask myself, is the character? Is it the character? Is it the character? Did they bring a lamp? Did they bring a torch? And what I always highly recommend for any young beginning student or artist as well is like always ask questions. The best part of being an artist is not necessarily always the ability or the skill to draw anything that you want. It's the ability to ask questions and wonder, how do you draw something? How do I design something? And the pursuit of curiosity is what's going to make you better and better. It's not always going to be, oh, okay, I know I need to draw muscles, but here's like a weird thing maybe to say. It might feel a little like contradictory or controversial, which is that anyone can technically draw muscles, but it's how you draw the muscles. And it's always going to be questioning, like, how do I want to depict the muscles? Am I going to draw every single groove and tendon and strip piece of muscle that's on the arm? Am I going to color in the muscles? Is it going to be hyper realistic, or do I want to capture more of the shape of the muscles or in the forms of it? So being curious and asking yourself not only how to draw something, but how you want to draw something is a big part of improving and getting better as an artist. So that's why asking questions and being curious, I think, is like a big part. So did they bring a light torch, or is light coming from the ceiling? Coming from ceiling? Ultimate Star Wars and D&D. That does sound pretty cool. Light sword. Yeah, glowing sword. Is it the sword? Is it the sword? Question mark? I feel like it would be kind of cool if it is the sword. So figure out the light source, and then maybe like one other thing is like, how intense is it? How intense is it? And then, whoops. And maybe like the color as well. Is it a light color? Like, is it bright like white, or is it a yellow light source? Is it glowing like yellow or something? Figuring out this will also help you figure out like what color to tint the whole thing. So right now this feels like a very cloudy, almost like a cloudy day lighting. And it's not very intense or strong. So maybe what I would do is, let me just duplicate this. And let's see. Let's just shrink this down over, let's just put it here. And we can kind of like draw stuff over this one. So I'm gonna like write out all the stuff here. Things that I kind of was like a little bit confused about when we first saw this, which is that, like, oh, is this the ceiling? I assume that it is, but it's a little bit unclear. So I think it would help to have it be clearer. Is this the ceiling? Maybe he's just a glow. That could be too. Is the guy glowing? So all these questions, right? And it's good to ask questions. I don't think it's what I'm saying here is it's not a bad thing to be confused or a bit unsure. That confusion, I would say, try to turn it around and use it to your advantage of like, okay, how can I make it clearer? If I'm not sure what the light source is, maybe it's a good idea to then maybe come to a conclusion as to what your light source is. Try not to be too wishy-washy about it, of like, I don't know, you know, I just kind of went with it. No, try to sit down and just kind of go like, okay, where is the light source? What is my light source? And what is the light source affecting? So is this the ceiling? And if it is, then make it clear. Make it clear. And then it's like, where is the light source? So where is light source? And then the other thing is, so the dragon, honestly, I think is great. The drawing of the dragon is awesome. The cave environment and setup that you've done is also great. The only downside is just the, as you, I guess you said, it's the coloring portion of it. So this goes to the other feedback portion, which is to contrast. In an environmental painting or scenery like this, the reason why I showed my piece is to show you that you need contrast. So if it is a singular light, if it is a singular light, you'll need a lot of dark areas. A lot of dark areas. Oh, but I was kind of busy with stuff, and I was thinking of submitting art I did for the CSP challenge. Oh, it is a little bit late, unfortunately. Jack fell down. Jack fell down. Nice name. But maybe next time. But yeah, might kind of maybe like shout out if you guys do. If we run out of time, I feel like sometimes I like to just, if we don't get like too many, I'll kind of give a little like just shout out to everybody that submitted. But we'll see. So contrast. So what this means is I'm going to show you how I would adjust this one. Just real quick, just to hopefully give you also a side-by-side of like how you could do this. So based on how you colored it, I'm going to assume that these areas are actually meant to be really, really dark. And if you're in a cave-like setting, what I would recommend is getting maybe like going into ultramarine and going real dark. And the reason why I want you to use ultramarine as well is so that there's a little bit of a difference between the dragon color and the environmental color. So hopefully by having a separation between the two also allows the dragon to show up a little bit better. Oh. Allows everything to kind of hover, like the sense of contrast. And I would also say just like go really, really dark with this. Even the rocks, I like that you're using like a good amount of gray into it, but it is still a little bit too dark and a little bit just too much on the red side. So the dragon actually kind of fades into the rocks a little bit. So I go really, really dark. Now, if we are supposed to see a bit of the ceiling, I maybe might recommend making it a little bit brighter, but then again, you might kind of then go like, oh wait, where is the light source then? So just something to maybe consider. If the light source is from the bottom, I'll just put this in here just to show you like how we can isolate the ceiling. So maybe we have a little bit of rim lighting on the ceiling rocks, just to make it feel like this rock is obscuring the dragon. And I think I saw somewhere as well, I don't know who said it, I think it was you, Drown Elf, but if it wasn't you, and whoever recommended this, let me know. But I think a big thing that could also help is to just have it be a bit blurrier, just so that the sense of like it being in the foreground and really out of focus will help. So I would put this here, so just so we have a really dark contrast, because most of the light is not going to be hitting these ceiling rocks anyways. But if there's a light source at the bottom, it might help just to have a little bit of this brighter value to almost be like either like wetness, or kind of even like it's catching a little bit of the light source at the bottom, but having it be really, really dark, almost I would say like near black, will help with the sense of just contrast with this dragon. And again, just building up the contrast here, having it be really, really dark all the way around. I'm not going to do too much of this painting. And then the dragon here would also be pretty dark too. So everything's really, really dark. And this is the cool thing about, excuse me, I'm like I was like about to burp. But the really cool thing about digital art is that you can, if you're not too sure if you're heading in the right direction, no worries. The great thing about digital is that you can always try it on a layer first and see whether or not you're heading in the right direction. So if you're like, okay, you know, Josh told me to make things darker and a little bit more like obscured, let me give that a try. And if you don't like how it turns out, no harm, no foul. You can always change the settings a little bit, or change the approach, do it a little bit differently. So now here's the thing with this guy, the lighting here is pretty kind of blue. It's kind of cool. So I don't want to change that too much. Maybe you intentionally wanted it to be that blue, I guess. So let's just make it a little bit brighter. I'm not going to make it too saturated, but just a little bit brighter around here. And then we can even add a little bit of the light hitting these rock faces. So it makes it feel like this light is casting and emitting on all these rock faces. And I'm using a similar color just so that it feels like the light source itself is related to whatever is being hit with light. So I'm using the same color on the rocks that I'm brightening up here and here, just so that it feels like it's all related. And then for the dragon, we don't want it to be too bright because the dragon's color itself is pretty red and pretty dark. So maybe I would kind of put it around here, just so that there's a little bit of brightness on the dragon, but not too much. Might kind of fade it in just a bit. And then you can even go with like a brighter, maybe we'll go like orange. Again, this will really kind of depend on the color that you want for the dragon and kind of how bright you want things to be. But if you really want the sense of contrast, it might be good to brighten up certain things. And we can even add a little bit of like lighting here. Not going to saturate it too much, but just enough to bring in a little bit of light. Oops. I don't want it to be too sharp either, but just enough. And what I'm noticing too maybe is just that you use like a really soft airbrush. Now I'm using an airbrush because I want to just cover this up really quickly, so I don't want to spend too much time in painting this for too long. But having using an airbrush might not be a great idea for just fading everything in. You want to kind of have some sharp shadows, some sharper edges, just so that things actually feel more grounded. So I'm really adding like the dark shadows into like these rock crevices, like this, giving it a sense of like details and forms. Maybe add some foreground flooring. Oh yeah, that could be like a suggestion too. Or like that's not a bad suggestion. I mean, adding some just like foreground light or like pieces here, or like some rocks poking out here could be a good idea. We can give that a try, just to like break up the composition a little bit. Maybe, yeah, let's kind of try this. And maybe it'll be just as dark as the one at the top. A little bit. Just so that it looks like we as the viewer are kind of peering into this kind of scenery. So maybe something like that. Not kind of on this trend or direction. Again, like I said, it doesn't have to be exactly like this, but this could be an approach for how you might want to reassess this kind of scene. But I think it's like a big part of it. If anything, if there's any kind of takeaway that you have from this, it's the contrast. It's having a sense of the dragon fading into view, especially if this is supposed to be a really dark cavern and you're not supposed to see too much. Might be a good idea to just really up the contrast and these shapes and these forms, so that the sense of just scale and depth in the cave is much more apparent. I think we can even make this area darker and this area underneath the dragon darker. But being closer to the dragon with it could help with that too. It really comes down to, I would say, your personal preference for whoever or however you want to do this. Because yeah, it's kind of like up to you on what works best and what you think will help with the drawing, for sure. I don't think it's a bad suggestion. I also don't think it's a bad thing to try out if you're like not too sure. It's like, oh, should I really push the contrast in this piece. And it's like, yeah, I don't know, maybe it might be a good idea to try out just making the scene just more zoomed in like this. It could be a good idea. So this is what the original one looks like. So you can see like this one, again, I'm not saying that I've just solved your whole piece here, but you can already see by just bumping up the contrast in these areas and making the dragon really fade into the background, it kind of helps a lot. And just brightening up these areas here helps to kind of frame the scene, and also helps to just really make it feel a little bit different. Or just not different, but a little bit more contrasted. So this is what the original looks like, and then this is what happens when we add just a little bit more contrast. It just helps to bump up everything. Like the original one, everything was kind of had this grayish wash over it, and everything was kind of a little bit even in value. But by adding just contrast and bumping up, pushing the darks to be really dark, and making the light areas not super white, but just a little bit brighter, so that it's a little bit easier to tell where the light contrast is coming from. So yeah, I think that's really it. Hope that helps. Oops. Hope that helps. Let me see, what is it? Cloudziro with this piece. I think you had something working out really cool here. Environmental painting is not easy, but I do think like the biggest thing for you is definitely the contrast and figuring out the light source. So yeah, well, either way, thank you for submitting a really awesome piece here. And let's move on to the next one, Cloudziro. Also, if you guys have any questions while we're doing this, feel free to ask. Okay, next one is... Oh, excuse me. Next one is Cloud of Hermits, or Cult of Hermits. I believe I saw you in the chat for a bit, so I don't know if you're still here. Let me see. I need to find my little Excel sheet. Okay, here it is. Okay, Clouds of Hermits. Let's see what you wrote. Oh, you wrote a lot, right? I remember yours. I had to associate the names with everyone because you had like more. You had more specific things you had questions about, but more for the characters. Okay, so I'll just read it. I'm struggling to give off the idea that the characters are a coherent cast in this made-up narrative in my head, with the boy with the purple and blue hair as the protagonist. His name is Chase, and the white masked cat character, his name is Casimir, is the main villain, with the guy on the far left next to the main protagonist, his name is Colin, and then the other ones on the far right are as the supporting cast. Okay, the big guy's name is Bug, and the red kobold name is named Rosalind. And then additionally, I'm struggling to show the archetypes they fall into. Colin as the arcane artificer, the dude who makes weaponry and gadgets. Chase as the main protagonist, who's meant to stand out since he's not from the other's world. Casimir's as the silent evil type, like the type to be watching from the shadows or playing 4D chess several moves ahead. And the Bug. The big guy. The Bug being the barbarian, Rosalind as the holy healer paladin. Ah, okay. Cool. Thank you for all the descriptions. This is very, very in depth with like what you want with this one. Oh, hey, Cult of Hermits, you're still here. Nice. Also, before we head into this, yeah, Jack fell down. I think that's a really good point, which is that we hesitate to cover up the stuff we draw by going too dark. It's kind of like killing your darlings in writing. I totally agree with that. I think sometimes, especially if you're... So I'm like this as well. I'm more of a line artist, and I think sometimes the line between a line artist and a painter is that line artists, we care a lot more about the design and the drawing and the effort that we put into the actual line work itself. But with painters, it's the other way around. The line work is almost more like nothing, and the painting and how you paint it is more important. So I feel like if you find yourself as more of a line artist, What you kind of have to just get over sounds a little mean, but what you have to kind of learn to adapt to is understanding that if you decide to paint, you might lose out some of that line work. You're still going to be able to see some of it, maybe in the areas that are lit and the more important details like the faces, but some of that really intricate line work, like in the clothing or the folds or in the hair, some of that might just be a little bit lost because the focus is actually more the painting and the colors and the values rather than the line work itself. So especially in the cases of this, where most of it is in shadows and it's such a dark scenery, the unfortunate thing is some of that detail is just going to have to get covered up, because in order to sell a deeper atmosphere like this, or like a much darker atmosphere like this, you're just going to have to lose a bit of the details. But that is something that that is just something that is learned and kind of mastered over time, or like through time. Any faces from the front without a symmetry tool? That's a good question. I'm gonna keep that in the docket just in case we have time to go over it. But yeah, it out for days. Well, I guess this is a good chance to kind of shout this out. We actually I posted like one last call on our YouTube page. So if you go to our YouTube page, let me just search it up in Canvas. If you go to post, so this is why I guess keeping up and subscribing and having that notification bell is will be good, because if you go to our post, I actually gave one last shout out for the community of like, hey, I'm gonna be streaming today, but also one last final call for your submissions. But we actually also posted this document out like a few weeks ago on our Discord as well. So Discord is one of like the best places to check it out. But we also post some of these, but we also post these on YouTube as well. So if you want to kind of be notified of the next time we do these kind of community submissions, kind of streams, keep an eye out on the posts, and also just subscribe and hit that notification bell so that you are notified of when we kind of do these posts. So this character lineup sheet, so Cult of the Hermits, really great piece here. I really like these cast of characters. So the reason why I chose this is I feel like your biggest struggle, or from what it sounds like, your biggest struggle seems to be making your characters stand out or making them feel separate or distinct from one another. And I feel like when I look at your cast of characters, other than Bug, the big guy, they all kind of have very similar body types or very similar body shapes. And so what I would do is I really like the costuming. So the costuming and the colors and the overall design of the characters actually look pretty good and pretty solid. What's a little bit maybe lacking, quote unquote lacking, is just a distinction in body shape. And so let's kind of just go here. So I guess feedback, maybe experiment with the following. Also, I don't know what's happening with my writing. I'm noticing that it's turning more and more into cursive over time. It's kind of weird. I actually used to write all my notes in cursive when I was in middle school, and then partway through near the end of grade 8, and then all the way through like the rest of my life, I basically kind of switched back to print writing with a little bit of like embellishments brought over from cursive. But I've noticed that like recently, for the past few weeks, I've been like going back kind of into cursive. So I don't know, my writing at the moment, bear with me, because it's going through a little bit of like a, I don't know, growing pains, or a little bit of a transition where it's like going back to cursive a little bit. So it might look a little messier and weirder than usual. Experiment with the following. I would say shapes, proportions, and definitely this is the one that I thought of the most, which is just sizes. Sizes. So I know the proportions might kind of seem similar, but proportions I usually am referring more to like the body, like the character's proportions themselves. So proportions in this case would be like how the head, the body, or like the head, the shoulders, the waist, maybe even the knees and the feet. So this is the distribution of proportions. And I would say that when I look at this, they all feel the same. Proportions feel a little bit stiff. Proportions feel too even. And stiff. So try to break it up a little bit more, maybe make the head a little bit larger, maybe make the body more square. It doesn't mean that everything has to go like big, small, big, small, big, small, but try to find a way to break up the proportions a little bit. So I call this the distribution of proportions. Distribution of proportions, because you're kind of figuring out how to distribute what is bigger and what is smaller, so you're kind of like figuring it out. I feel like Bug is the one that is a little bit more like, I guess, well distributed, I guess you could say, but the other ones feel a little bit samey to me as well. So it's actually not just, I know I did the draw over for Roslyn, or hopefully I'm pronouncing it right, but I'm only doing the draw over for Rosalind, but I feel like it's actually a similar problem throughout all the characters, and why they kind of feel like it's lacking a little bit. I actually think is it Casimir? The guy with the mask, the main villain guy, yeah. Oh, and the white mask guy, yeah, Casimir. So Casimir, I actually think, has a pretty good distribution of proportion, because you have the legs and the waist a little bit longer. But I think maybe why it still doesn't feel like it's enough is also waist is maybe here, and then you have here. So this one's a little bit okay as well. I think the reason why it still feels stiff is because it maybe feels a little bit too similar to what is this guy's name? Colin. So it feels a little bit too close to Colin. I'm just gonna write their names here. Casimir, and then Chase. So everything kind of feels too similar, and what I would experiment with more is kind of going like, oh, Casimir has a very cool triangular look to them. So I'm wondering if like maybe you can play around, and this is something I would test out, which is to design your characters only with a silhouette. So you have maybe like a shorter ears, and it's very triangular. I like how they kind of fan out a little bit, but you don't have too much of like a neck or shoulders for Casimir. So I'm wondering, is like, oh, what if I made Casimir more of like a triangle shape? And what if I made the arms a lot longer, and then the feet are shorter? And the boots can be the same. Like I like these moon boots kind of style of an approach. But we make the body like longer, more triangular, more kind of uniform in a sense, but we make the hands a little bit longer, and then we make the feet shorter. So this is how you can experiment. So I'm not saying that this is how to fix it, or like you should commit to this, but this is how you can kind of play around with it. Because he's also supposed to be, or I don't know, what is it? Yeah, Casimir, he's supposed to be like, if from the way you've designed it, it's like a schemer. This person's kind of supposed to be kind of like you aren't supposed to trust this character, and I feel like the character's design feels a little bit too regular, I guess. So I want to see what are some ways to play around with the character's shapes. So if not, you can kind of have, maybe sometimes some people might have the ears or the head. Maybe even play around with like how the whiskers are tilting up. Maybe the face is a little bit longer than usual. And also, you don't have to stick completely to a silhouette. Maybe the, what is it? It's a little bit more regular, but the body tapers in maybe a lot more, or maybe it's a little bit more boxy. So again, just some things to kind of experiment with. Maybe the arms are wider with like the shirt. I really like the sleeves and how they've kind of they push up the arms, or not push up the arms, but they change the shape a little bit. Maybe you can have a little bit of like a square boxy waist maybe before you get into the legs. Maybe the arms can be longer too. You can have like kind of like the hands from, was it Puss in Boots, the Last Wish? You know that wolf character? He's got a really large, kind of almost intimidating upper half, but then the lower half is much kind of, the lower half is a little bit more like thinner, it's more tapered, it's a little bit more smaller. So I'm just doing this only with kind of with just the silhouettes. So you can also think about like different shapes. I feel like you don't have to completely take away this kind of more sharper outfit. I do like these stripes that you have going down, so you can even consider how that plays up with the way the shapes are broken up. I feel like if this is like a diamond shape, it could be kind of cool. Maybe so I'm kind of taking what you already have and seeing what it could look like if we change it up a little bit. So again, same thing here. Maybe this one's a little bit more rounded, and we have maybe like one stripe going all the way down, maybe have it be lower set, but then maybe the arms here sit higher. So maybe the hands for this design is a bit larger, and maybe it's like this instead. So you can kind of see like different shapes and different approaches to kind of mix and match the design and the feel of it. And this way, I don't know, you can get a little bit more of a different personality attached to the character's designs. So definitely play around a little bit more with the shapes. I feel like other than Bug, everybody has a very similar body shape or body build. So play around with people who are maybe a little bit bulkier, bigger, taller, maybe the upper body is a little bit larger. So you're kind of doing it, but there's something about it where just they all feel similar. And I think what can help with that is to start with silhouettes. So I'll write that here. Silhouette. Use silhouettes to draft simple but effective designs. And the reason why is because it'll get you to focus less on the details, but on the overall feel and weight of the character. Gives sense of weight and shape. And I feel like because you're using a lot of like creatures and animals, definitely really play up or play with the different kind of like features, maybe like the horns, the ears, the tails, the paws. A lot of that you have room to experiment. for how to make the characters just a little bit more differentiated. Because even if just looking at the horns and the ears, they're all kind of similar. So I don't know, maybe Casimir's ears are super big. Maybe you can experiment with like what it would look like if the ears were like really large. Again, not saying that it has to be, but it's like, oh, what if they were much larger? And what if we had like a sharper face maybe at the bottom? And everything. I don't know, maybe the ears make him look a little bit too adorable. So if you don't want that, if you're like, nah, it's too adorable looking, then that's totally okay. But we can like experiment with going even larger. It's like, oh, what if we made it even bigger? So again, it doesn't hurt to kind of experiment and try out and see where things take us. We can even have like the shoulders taper and connect to the scarf even more for that like shape. Maybe something to experiment with. But yeah, I feel like this is a good, you have a good kind of thing going. You have like a good direction you're heading into. It's really more of like maybe going back to the drawing board a little bit and figuring out and lining up your characters as silhouettes first, just to see where they all stack and whether they have any kind of like standout features that helps to differentiate them or make them distinctive from each other, because they're all feeling a little bit samey in terms of just weight and design and proportions. But yeah, Collins Ashibe took inspiration on the Cult of Lamb, draw their lamb. Oh, okay. Oh, you know, I can kind of see that. Sorry, I read that a little bit late. Oh, I've gotten used to drawing humans, but I struggle when it's animals or rocks or or everything else. You know what that means though? Like this is something that was very similar to me as well. I was mostly someone who just drew faces, so I actually very rarely ever drew like figures and like the full body, or anything else for that matter as well. But the reason why we get really good at drawing what we draw is because we draw it over and over and over again. So if I'm drawing humans over and over again, then I'm gonna get really good at drawing faces and nothing else. So if you find that or if any of you guys feel like you're lacking a little bit in drawing animals or environments, it just means that you have to put in a little bit more time doing some studies of the other stuff. But yeah. Let me see. Just the horns that threw me off. Yeah. I don't know animals. Yeah, animals is also not like technically my forte as well in a way, but yeah. So this is I think like a good amount for you, Cult of Hermits. Let me know if you have anything else. I feel like you're heading in a good direction. Just a little bit more like experimentation, I guess. Cult of the Hermits. Also, I hear your name, you know, it sounds like the game Cult of Hermits. I still need to finish Cult of the Lamb. I started it and I didn't get like too deep. I think I made it to the second world or the second like gate or something, or the third gate, and then I just kind of didn't keep it up, didn't continue. But it was a good game. Okay, we have like 30 minutes left. Maybe I'll start to speed run it a little bit. Okay, so this one is by Bop Universe. Let me see, where are you? Okay. So, this person said they know that they drew a lot, but yeah, this is something I drew in the last couple of months of last year. I was drawing when I interpreted outfits for each of them into a more medieval fantasy style. I thought of really creative ways to keep certain designs, like a bag, as a type of hoodie and some other things, but I guess what would make it look like it fits more in the medieval fantasy setting. Okay, cool. I like it. I've been seeing this a little bit more too, like a little bit of a mix or kind of try to blend modern with medieval, and I feel like it's turning out pretty good for a lot of you guys. Oh, I really like the wolf character, actually. The way you drew this character here, I actually think is really good. I didn't even notice this character when I first saw it. But yeah, Bop Universe, really cool piece here. I really like just the ensemble, I guess you would say. The cast of characters here. Actually, when I first saw this, the thing that stood out to me was actually the background. So with pieces like this, I think either because technically the backgrounds or the camera is actually really not really high up, but it's kind of at a higher angle and it's pointing down. So I would just say commit to the whole grass. You know, just covering up the whole entire grass I think would be fine. Just having it all be covered. I know it might look a little weird because it's like, wait, what? I don't get to see the sky or anything. So this is one approach, by the way. Don't want to say that, oh, you can't show the sky, but sometimes with a environment that's like this, it can sometimes help to just show the whole entire sky. And if it's a lower angle, I would also recommend showing maybe like the bottom of like the feet more, or not the bottom of the feet, rounding out the shoes so that it looks more like we're looking at the top of people's feet. So this is one approach that you can do. The other approach is the one that I think would be better, and that is to have the horizon line be lower. So based on like where all these characters are positioned, I feel like the horizon line is somewhere around here. And it would mean you'll have to kind of move some characters down. But I think by just having the horizon line a little bit lower, it would help to kind of make the scenery just feel a little bit more vast. And also, yeah, the middle character kind of feels like Spider-Man. Kind of neat. So yeah, you're going to have to move the tree down. You're going to have to move some of these characters that are like standing. If they're above the horizon line, of course, we're going to have to move those down a little bit. Like this wolf character is going to have to come down a bit. But I feel like having it lower is pretty good. And the reason why I put it around here is because majority of your characters are kind of standing on this. Like this character feels like it's the last one that's like at the highest point. Every other character feels almost like they're either jumping or in the air. So it doesn't feel like it should be any higher or any lower. I feel like this is a good spot to place the horizon line. So this area right here is the horizon line. And if you want to make it feel a little bit deeper, I think what you could do as well is, oh, let's just move this down. Although I don't think we'll be able to see it. Yeah, there we go. I think what would kind of help with the scenery as well that you could try out is to play around with the different kind of hills. So we can have the tree here, which I think is like really cool. I think works pretty well. But we can have like maybe some rolling hills in the back. And then you can make the colors just a little bit lighter so we can have like different pieces of hills. I think that's the other thing too, is like when you guys draw environments, try not to have the floor or ground plane be a little bit too flat. You can add different layers to the environment just so that it's has a little bit more depth to it. And then maybe we can even add like bits of clouds. So I feel like if you have clouds here, it'd be kind of nice. So I know I'm just scribbling through this, putting this in really quickly, but this is something that could be considered for the piece, just to make them feel like they're all in this one scenery together. Yeah, like most of these characters are drawn really well. So actually, in terms of your characters, I don't have too much to say. It's more of like how you put all these characters together and the I guess the assemblance of these characters and how they're all kind of put onto this land. So I would kind of just lower the horizon line, and lower some of the characters just so that they feel like they're on like an actual piece of land. And what could kind of maybe even help with the sense of, I don't know, sense of environment is like you could add a building here. Since it's supposed to be medieval-ish, I guess you could have like a castle in the background a little bit. Don't know. Maybe like a small castle in the back. I don't know. They're fighting really, really away. Windows, exactly. You gotta add the Windows desktop background. It ain't a background until it's the Windows XP background. Oh, okay. Also, something that I don't know if anybody from Toronto noticed this. I went to go get pizza. I think I was like on Thursday or something. They still use Windows XP on their computer. I was waiting for the guy to like enter my order, and then I was like looking at the desktop monitor that they had, or at least the kiosk screen that faces the customers. It was Windows XP, and I was like, what? They're still using Windows XP for like pizza? So if you don't know, pizza is like a really big, I don't know if it's all throughout Canada, but it's definitely it's a very Toronto thing, where it's like the biggest pizza chain, I think, in Toronto. And I'm just like surprised that their computer system is just Windows XP. But I mean, you know what? If it ain't broke, I guess don't fix it. And the monitors they were using too were also really old. It was like something out of the 2000s, and I was just like, wow, huh. I never noticed that you guys are still on like such an old computer system, but it's kind of funny. Okay, so horizon line. So what I would say is to, here, we'll write it down. Since I've been doing this for everybody, feedback, bring horizon line down. And then I would say make the hills roll a little bit. Oh my gosh, I like it messing up my buttons. Make the hill or yeah, I guess the hills not too flat. Even like flat planes are like not too flat. There's a little bit of like just gentle rolling to them. Pizza. Y2K. I know, right? They're just stuck in that time period. Yeah, 2, make them a little bit flatter, and then 3, maybe add some atmospheric perspective. To the background. So if you don't know, atmospheric perspective is what I'm doing to these hills. So there's geometrical perspective, which deals with like buildings, cars, your room. Those are when you learn how to draw like prisms that look three-dimensional and whatnot. Atmospheric perspective deals less with the drawing of perspective, so like less with the geometrical aspects of perspective, but more with the environment itself. So if you want to make something feel like it's actually moving in the distance, like going deeper into the distance, you make things less saturated and lighter in value, or lower contrast in value. So that's why the hills in the back, like this one here and this one here, they're quote-unquote lighter, but the real definition of atmospheric perspective is actually lower in contrast. So things that are closer to us in the camera are going to be higher in contrast, so that's why you can get things that are really bright, really dark in shadows, really bright in saturation, but then the things that start moving further into the distance lose that contrast. And so sometimes it's usually a little bit lighter, more desaturated, and so you get something that looks like this. But that's the real definition of atmospheric perspective, is that it just loses contrast, not necessarily always getting lighter, because you can technically have atmospheric perspective in a cave and things don't get brighter in a cave, things get darker in a cave. So but again, it's really just the contrast aspect. But yeah, let me see. I know you asked something about the characters. Make it look fit more fantasy. Oh, okay. Restaurants won't replace anything unless they, yeah, basically. Also, also a little bit of a a little Toronto cultural thing. So I don't know if you guys know of this restaurant. It's called Din Tai Fung, from like China, I think. They mostly serve a lot of the Shanghai like dumplings style of food. So what's funny is that this real restaurant in China is spelled with a D-I-N. But here in Toronto, we don't have Din Tai Fung. We have Ding Tai Fung, which is the D-I-N-G. And just by adding that G, it's like, oh, no, we're not the real one. We're like a little bit of a different one. But what's funny is I think they have plans of moving the real Din Tai Fung from China to Canada. So they have to replace it. So we went to this restaurant not too long ago, and they literally changed everything. So the name is different. The menus, they had to like reprint it. I think they even had like frosted letterings on their mirrors that they also had to change. So everything had to be, they had to take their Ding Tai Fung name out of everything and replace it with like a new name. So you're totally right. Restaurants don't have to do anything until they like absolutely have to, because it's been Din Tai Fung for like the longest time, I think, until now, where like, oh, the real Din Tai Fung is here. We gotta change it. Oh yeah, okay. So with the outfits, honestly, I feel like your outfits are good. You got like real cool variety going on. I just love all the expressions on your characters' faces. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't really have too much. I really don't really have too much to say about the characters and their outfits. I think the sense of creativity of mixing and matching modern outfits to also have some medievals kind of cool. I think what works with some of them is like the patching that you have here definitely really makes it feel more medieval, more old school. I think having even like the robes make it more medieval. Just even having like fantasy characters also helps with it. Maybe what could make it feel like medieval is like to have like maybe more belts. Maybe adding like, so maybe add more like belts, maybe like leather, maybe small pieces of armor could also help. Pieces of armor to just kind of bring back that a little bit of like the medieval aspect. But yeah, honestly, I think that this one's a lot of fun, really cool piece. So yeah, good job. What is it? Bop Universe. Also fun name. You guys come up with such like fun names. Had to go to Vancouver to try the real Din Tai Fung. Yeah. So I think that's the only one, right? Like they're only going to Vancouver. But yeah, all the ones here in Toronto or even in like the GTA. Oh, also by the way, there's a little fun fact about Toronto. Most of you guys, when we say Toronto, think of downtown Toronto, so that's like where the CN Tower is. But Toronto, to I guess the locals, is actually the GTA, what we call the Greater Toronto Area. But what's funny is like as a kid, I remember seeing something like on the newspaper, it was like GTA cars stolen, and I was like, or no, I don't think it even had to do with like a car. I think it was just like a very general thing, like GTA library shuts down, and I was just like, Grand Theft Auto library? What are they talking about? And I remember my parents just being like, what are you talking about? GTA stands for Greater Toronto Area. I'm like, oh, okay. So a little fun fact, Toronto, if you talk to most people from Toronto, we're not actually like downtown core Toronto. We're usually more like GTA Toronto. Which I don't know what it covers like a good broad spectrum. Some people will say like Markham kind of is considered part of GTA, and if you didn't know, Wing Canvas actually originated from Markham, so I don't know if it's considered Toronto, but Either way, let's move on to the next one while we still got a little bit of time. Okay, the next one here is by Managen. I'm sorry if I'm butchering your name. This one is really, really good. We're starting to get to some of them where I actually don't have too much to say. It's more just like some small little, I don't know, comments here and there. So this one is by Managen or Managen. And they say, I want to draw a whole lot of fantastical settings, creatures, etc., but I feel like I'm lacking in three main ways. Plotting out a 3D space that doesn't feel flat, avoiding visual clutter, and most of all, coloring. I don't even try to attempt coloring most of the time, I just can't get that down. No worries. Coloring, I feel like for a lot of line artists it's like a big whole new game. It feels almost like a completely different sport, so it's totally relatable. Yeah, that's right. Grand Theft Auto fun fact. There's 2 GTAs in this world. Yeah, really, so I really like this piece. I love the texture and just the composition in general. I am curious about one thing though. If these are grapes, those are some big grapes. Or they're like fruits. Those are some ginormous fruits. So my thing here is that if we're doing something a little bit fantastical, so feedback, if you're, well, it makes sense. These are fantasy. This is the fantasy edition. So if these grapes are meant to be like larger than real life, I think what's kind of needed is some like other fantastical elements maybe thrown around. So other fantastical elements included. Because this is kind of the one thing that stood out to me, is that when I saw this, I was like, oh, the composition is so cool. But I'm like, wait, are those grapes? And the reason why I kind of asked this is because it's a little bit hard to tell if the grapes are foreshortened or if it's just a large grape. So because there's no other fantastical elements here, like, I don't know, like a castle or a dragon flying nearby, or even like maybe making the flowers a little bit larger. So I think if we had like other large flowers, other large like vegetation, it would kind of go like, oh, okay, the grapes are meant to be big, not that they're accidentally drawn big or that it's meant to be foreshortened, because it gets into that little bit of like a weird position of like it's a little bit unsure, like it's a bit hard to tell what direction it's really going for. So adding other large elements will help clear up on whether the grapes are actually large or if it's foreshortened. I'm assuming that they are supposed to be large, so that's why I think the best kind of adjustment is just make other larger things. Don't even try to attempt coloring, it is relatable. Oh, absolutely. Up until recently, the most I was doing was doodling on a sketchbook with a ballpoint pen, though I really wanted to color, it scared me a bit. You know, I think what kind of helps me is, like, if you're already doing shading, you already got your foot in the door, is what I would say. I'm also mostly someone who just did like shading and like flat coloring and mostly line work and ink work. A lot of black and white coloring. But I think what kind of helps ease into painting is to just start doing some more shading, more gradation type of shading, with like blending and all that, whether with a pencil crayon or with a pencil. And then when you move into painting, don't jump right into maybe colors just yet. Start with maybe a monochromatic or a grayscale painting to understand how to blend, how to color things, how to block things in. Hopefully to just like ease into it, because painting, it's almost hard because you're juggling actually two things. You're juggling the process of painting and you're also juggling colors. So yeah, it could be a little bit tricky. And so that's why I think going back to this, you already have a good amount of grayscale and a good amount of textures here. So I think an easy thing to just try out is, actually no, let's make this one multiply. So I think an easy thing to just like immediately try out is just put down some colors. Because you're already working pretty flat, I would say you don't actually have to do too much blending, but you can like try it out, see how it comes along. Now it's not going to be perfect, by the way. Me putting this down here is just kind of trying to get some colors in, and it also might not be perfect either because I'm using a multiply layer, so it's always going to be naturally a little bit more dark, but let's just try it out anyways. I think this would be just fun to just play around with and see what colors you can get. Now the grapes are gonna be interesting. Yeah, if we put it down, it's just like really, really dark. This is gonna be really dark no matter what, I think. And I would say, like, if you're gonna color, if your drawing itself is already pretty, if it's already pretty textured, keep the texture, keep at it. Don't all of a sudden change to like a different texture. So if your drawing is like a very scratchy pen type texture, grab a painting brush that also is textured, just so that it gives it a little bit more of a, I don't know, a nice proper feel. I don't want to make it too dark because it's gonna be brown anyways, and I'm using multiply, so the multiply is gonna make it pretty dark. Let's just put in the grass. I know grass is not this saturated or this green, by the way, so I know that it's not like a proper green color, but I think this is a good way to just experiment and try it out. I'm not saying that this has to be the exact way that you go about coloring your environment, but if you're a little bit hesitant with it and you mostly focus on like the greenery or like the drawing and a black and white approach, try just putting in some colors to experiment with how things might look. I don't know what color you might want the shirt to be, but let's say it's like yellow, like a bright, nice bright yellow, and let's just say this person's wearing jeans. Some nice jeans, and the let's say this is like a, I don't know, I'm getting like a nice light color feel from them. So let's go with that. And like the hair, I don't know, I feel like a nice light yellow hair could be kind of neat. And then, oh, we can't really go too much. Let's go with overlay. Oops, not overlay. Let's go with screen, and let's go with a darker, like a dark brown, like around here. So if your tree is getting hit with like sunlight and whatnot, I think it could help to also just have a little bit of some shadows to it, and then adding a little bit of sunlight I think would be like really, really nice, hitting the tree. Oops. Hitting the tree over here I think would be kind of cool, would be good. Yeah, something like this maybe. Same thing with the leaves and everything. So you can experiment with it, try to get it down. But yeah, maybe it's a bit closer to us, so because of exaggerated perspective. That's what I thought too, but if that is going to be the case, it will be helpful to make everything else that's also in that direction to be in that same direction. So it's kind of like, if this grapes are like super big because it's really close, then you'll want other foreground elements as well. So we could also try that out. So let's go with like a big yellow flower, like right over here. So just having like elements that are much larger could help. I'm not saying that we have to go this route, but just having a larger color... Oh, whoops. Having like larger elements here could help get that sense that, oh, it's supposed to be really large. And I don't know what's inside. Let's just make it like a... Let's use like bright colored things to make it feel like there's something right in front. So you can have something like this to instantly help make it feel like there's a certain kind of foreground element to it. So this makes it feel like we're peering at this character from like, I don't know, like a bush of grass or something, just to make it feel like there's foreshortening. But it still doesn't really quite make sense because the grapes are technically not this close up to the camera. And the only way that it would be this up close is if also these grapes were smaller. So I think if it was really, really pushed, these grapes could be really big, only if these ones were smaller. So that's why it doesn't feel like it's meant to be foreshortened. It feels more like it's meant to be these really big grapes. But yeah. Definitely an apple-sized grape. Yeah. Do you mean start with value studies? Yeah, I think so I guess I'm assuming that this is going back to the question about like how to get into painting. Start with just value studies. It could be with pencil or pencil crayons, and then when you move into painting, try to do just like more monochromatic, so like it's all green, it's all red. Or if you do a grayscale painting, that just basically means a value study. So you're only painting in black, white, grays to get your piece. So this way you don't have to deal with color and you get to focus mostly on just the painting process. Because again, like I said, painting is actually juggling two things, the process of painting and also juggling colors and values. So because colors itself can be a very complicated subject already, and if you've never painted before, just starting off with painting might be a good way of easing in. Yeah, did a bit of a 2 value studies with charcoal, which is really 3 values because it gives a nice mid-tone. Yeah, charcoal is a great way to also like have some fun, get your hands dirty, and yeah, it's good. I do think this is lovely. Yeah, I think there's something really cool here that could work with this piece. So what is this? Yeah, we kind of we kind of go and turn off all this. It's kind of cool because this kind of is a way of showing our perception of colors and values too. Also, hello, Arunya. Glad you're hopping on. Saying hello. Peak picnic spot. Oh, yeah. Honestly, this looks so, like, relaxing. So, like, with grayscale, it looks really almost, like, dark and very... This piece looks kind of almost, like, very... It has that black and white look to it. But then the moment we added colors to it, it starts to really bring it to life and really... It adds in a lot of the context for this scene. So I think if you're not too sure about coloring, you're just easing in, I think it's totally okay to start very, very simple, very flat, and maybe with a very limited palette and very limited values. So you can see here with the tree, there's really just maybe 3 values here. It's the dark color in the tree, the brown here, the light value that's getting hit with light, and then this medium value here. And the reason why this works is because you actually put in, like the artist, put in a lot of the colors already, or a lot of the values in the grayscale breakdown of it. So I actually didn't have to do too much. And all I did was I made the drawing a multiply layer, and I painted the colors underneath it so that the grayscale just passes through the colors. So if I didn't make this a multiply layer, it wouldn't keep any of none of the colors underneath would show up. But because multiply basically lets any bright values come through the whites, and then anything that's dark on the drawing itself does not let color through. So that's why the grapes here, these darker values are not going to let any colors in, and then these lighter values will let bits of the colors through. So I think, let me see, just a little bit of notes. too. So in regards to color, start simple, flat, limited colors, and yeah, I think that's kind of what mostly what I have to say about this piece. So let's group this. And okay, what was this? Managen. Okay, I know we're near the end, but I did have a few more pieces that I thought I'd give a shout out to. We're not going to show all of them, but I did want to shout out some pieces that I did have in mind. So I'm just going to give a quick comment on these. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to do any drawovers for, but here is one by Yanagi. And Yanagi has, let's see what they had to say. So this is a test subject in their tank, debating adding glowing effects to their design, maybe some more eye motifs. I'm debating I'm having a blue problem where there are a few other colors in their design, but blue. I also in general struggle with eye because it looks cluttered from a distance, but never painted underwater either. I struggle with painting in general. Yeah, this is a speed lightning round, so I'll just make a few quick comments because I feel like a lot of these other ones that I'm about to show, you guys are like very much on your way with a clean drawing or a clean piece. So I think with this one, when it comes to underground, or not underground, underwater, try not to use too many warm colors. I think that's the first thing I would change is maybe grab a... I know I literally just said I'm not going to do a draw over, but just to quickly show you guys what you can do or try out. Because let's say you already have the drawing done. What I might do is just grab the piece, make a new layer, and grab a square. And let's just try like a blue, like a light blue for now. Put it over your character and play around with the layer effects. So the first thing that you could try out is maybe color. So what I did was I took a light blue, excuse me, like burping. I took a light blue rectangle, put it over the character, and because the only thing that I need corrected or changed is the character itself, like the skin tone. It's a little bit too warm, it's a little bit too like normal flesh tone, flesh colored. So I already painted it. Maybe you're like, oh, I'm already kind of done with it, don't really want to repaint the whole skin. What you can do as a quick fix is to, if it's a similar situation or scenario like this, I would make a new layer, put a blue rectangle on it, a color that's kind of similar maybe to the water color that you have, but I would maybe make it a little bit lighter. So somewhere around here is why I put it there. And then I would take the layer effects and you can just play around, see which ones you like. So here, this is what overlay looks like. Actually, overlay doesn't look too bad. You can try like saturation. It's like, oh, nope, that doesn't look good. Screen, nah, screen makes it a bit too bright. So there's nothing wrong with not knowing what the layer effects are going to do, because sometimes it really is much about like, oh, whatever gets you the final result is sometimes good enough. So you could try burn, is like, oh, no, that's too much. So let's try color dodge. Ooh, nope, that's not it. Darken, that could kind of work actually, but something about it doesn't feel quite right. Divide, nope. Erase, nope. So I would basically kind of go through these over and over again to try to get one that matches what I want. I thought color actually didn't look too bad, and the reason why is because it kind of made everything blue. And what I get to now try out is play around with the opacity. So I'm gonna lower it to in an amount that I kind of like. And here's the thing, is that underwater, the visibility just goes down a little bit, so it's not gonna, things are not gonna be as bright as we would like them to be. So that's why I'm just gonna play with the opacity a little bit, just to get it to match that blue tone as best as I can. And I feel like 35-ish is like pretty good. And now you might be like, oh, is that all I have to do? Well, no, you have to do a little bit more. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take the airbrush, or it doesn't have to be the airbrush, but I'm gonna take the airbrush, make it a little bit big, maybe lower the opacity of the airbrush, and I'm gonna use it as an eraser to just gently erase bits of that blue rectangle, so it fades it back into the water. And any area that I don't want that blue rectangle to show up or that it's not needed, I'm just going to erase it lightly. So that's why I'm using the airbrush. That's why I have the opacity low, because I don't want it to be too strong. And I just want to slowly take away bits and pieces of that blue away. Now you might be like, well, Josh, now the character feels a little bit too dull. And so this is like why digital is like so great, because you have all these opportunities to try things out. So what I might do now is I might take screen, and maybe we'll take, again, this blue color, and I'm just gonna lightly, well, maybe we'll put it into the teal area, and we'll just put it over these like lighter areas, maybe even make it a bit brighter, so that we bring in a bit of that brightness back to our character. Now obviously paint it like carefully, don't just kind of go at it, but like paint it so that it matches what you need it to be hitting the glow, what glow needs to be hit. Maybe even like this area could be a little bit darker. Maybe we could put it here, we can just have it be maybe a bit of the multiply. Multiply will quickly darken things, and so we want the lower body to be much darker. We want this area to also be much darker, more blue. Maybe even like this area of the arms, so that the brightness can stand out a lot more on things like maybe even the feet is getting hit with a little bit of the light, but mostly it's going to be the top areas. So these areas are going to really get hit with light. So this is how you make it feel a little bit more like it's underwater, by giving it a bit more of a blue tint. And so if we take away, this is what it used to look like. It was a little bit too blue, it was a little bit too warm, and the lighting was a bit too even. And so just a quick fix on lighting, make a blue square, turn it into the color, or no, wait, not this one, the overlay or color layer effect, turn it into this light blue, lower the opacity to the amount that you want it to be, and then use the airbrush to erase the areas that you don't need the blue rectangle in. And then I took the multiply to increase and deepen the shadows for the areas that wouldn't be hit by light. And then I also brightened the areas that would be hit by light. And so I would also do this on the tail too, on this kind of winding, I don't know, the serpent-like tail, just to make it feel like it's part of the character, and then it's also being hit with light in the same way. But yeah, this is kind of for changing the colors on a floating character underwater. My last little bit of advice, and I'm not going to draw this part out, but when characters are floating, and if they're wearing clothes, it might be a good idea to have the clothes be a little bit looser and floating a little bit. So I might put the skirt or this dress, just have it expand out a little bit more, like widen. You don't have to raise it up. Or maybe just give the person like wearing like shorts or like sports shorts if you don't want to, like, I don't know, be too revealing or anything. But you can have this kind of outfit floating out a little bit more, kind of like jellyfish, kind of just like, I don't know, being much looser and not weighing down or coming down like gravity. Because that's the other thing about water as well, it's like everything becomes weightless. So if everything's hanging straight down, it makes it actually feel more like this person's just standing on normal ground and not like they're underwater, so to speak. So that's one. And then the next one, so these ones real lightning round, because I think these ones are good enough. Or like they have a lot going for them. This one is by JimmySockman. So I really love this design. I think I'm still thinking about jellyfish. Yeah, I really love how the I guess the design of the character in their animal version or counterpart, not counterpart, yeah, their animal transformation. Like I love how tied they are together. So this person basically was just wondering what are some ways to make the dragon feel better, and I guess that's like the biggest thing, is that it doesn't feel like a dragon. I don't know if it needs to feel like a dragon, but if you are like, oh no, it needs to be a dragon for the lore, for the world, then I think maybe adding a few things like a spine, like a hard shell spine similar to what you have in the belly would be good. Maybe even having just small wings could be helpful. It doesn't have to be expanding out or moving out, but even having just the wings taper to the body could help make it feel more dragon-like. And I definitely think also maybe adding some claws to the feet could help. If you're going for more of this flat style for the legs, for the feet, then just adding like these claw shapes I think would be good enough. But maybe it might be a good idea to add like the paws just to make them feel more like a dragon, because your style here feels very realistic on the human side, but on the creature side it feels like you're going in a very different direction in terms of like the art style and the art direction. So I would try to keep them similar and consistent, and I think what would help with that is just to keep it a little bit more on the realistic side, because the human design is definitely more grounded, more realistic, but the creature is giving me more Neopets kind of a direction, so more simplified, more slim, not slim, but like more, like everything is very tapered. There's not a lot of shapes and details, but I feel like if the character is more realistic and grounded, then the creature's design should also be a bit more grounded and realistic. By adding like the claws, the paws, the tails, maybe even having some indication of like scales could help, although I do like the galaxy kind of showing through, so maybe you don't need the scales. But yeah, really cool design. Next one is by RestlessColour. Also really beautiful piece here. So this person asked like how to make the fire feel like it's coming from the hands, and I think a big thing to help with that is to just not have the line work there. I think what you can do is just to erase these areas that the fire is going over, just to make it feel like the fire is covering the hand. And maybe you can have some of like the fingers kind of fade and blend into a fire. Maybe the fingertips turn into a little bit of like a flame shape, just to make it feel like, I don't know, some kind of power or magic is coming out of the hands, rather than just it feels more like it's just stuck onto the hand, rather than the hand is kind of pushing out a fiery energy. And then you also asked about the perspective. Honestly, I think the perspective is fine. Maybe make the forearm a little bit thinner, just so that it's not too upfront into the camera. But I think overall, I think it's like really, really cool. The style, the face is drawn really well. The hair is actually, I didn't even really look too much in the hair, but the hair is done really well. Yeah, actually, maybe for the fire, if the fire is rendered similar to the hair, I feel like that could be cool too, because the fire is actually kind of rendered almost differently from everything else in this piece. So I don't know, maybe it could be something to try out with the hair, or with the fire coming from the sword in the hand, to also look like how you did it with the hair. Just this, like, how you have the brightest areas on the edge, and then the more saturated, darker areas are on the inside. I feel like that could maybe help with the flow of the fire too. The finger length, I think it's okay, just because I get that it's maybe meant to be a bit foreshortened, but I think it's okay. Maybe I would push the palm area higher to here, like cut it in, but overall I think it's good. I will say maybe the knuckles here look a little bit odd, just because the direction of the hand look like it's going this way, and then all of a sudden the index knuckle goes whoop over here. So I would maybe have the middle knuckle align with the index knuckle a little bit, so the curve in the knuckles is more like this, rather than like this, and then it whoop goes up. Yeah, it feels a little bit off. I think it's the knuckles, not so much like the finger length maybe, but I think it's close enough that I'm just gonna be like, you know what, I think the fire, figuring out the lighting and the fire is good enough. Oh, hey, Venomized Toothless. Okay, so this one's by Trix. Yeah, really cool piece here. This character, I believe they said that they wanted to be like an experimented on character that is a little bit tragic, kind of like a villain, but villain by circumstances and their scenario. So I think it's really cool. Let me see, what did you say? Said, oh, wanted to make it feel dangerous in a rogue experiment. Oh, also this person's art style is very, very inspired by Gravity Falls, which I totally can see. I think maybe what could help with this character to feel more, I guess, roguelike, maybe with the cape. I think if you added maybe more disheveled, ripped up clothing on this one could help, because I feel like it's already like very much there. It looks really cool, the design is nice, the colors are there, but maybe, oh, maybe also playing around with like the arm proportions. Maybe have like the upper arm, like the bicep area, to be smaller and thinner, and then the forearms to be a little bit bigger to add to that animal like look to it. But yeah, I think it's like really cool. Maybe just making the cape or the robe be a little bit larger, maybe it covers most of his body, and then maybe making it a little bit more tattered and ripped up, so it looks like he kind of had to like run away with whatever he had on his back. But yeah, really cool piece. And then Ghost Cat, I don't know if you're still here, but yeah, I had your piece kind of saved in the back end just in case, I don't know, if we had extra time, but really cool piece here. I really like the design. I know that you mentioned that you were like, oh, you know, I wanted to make sure that the anatomy is like there, or the fabric fold is realistic. I think, okay, so for anthropomorphic character designs, it's always going to be a little bit tricky, because if you're having the character be bipedal, meaning they're on 2 feet, but then the rest of the features are animal-like, you kind of just have to go, kind of make a more like clean-cut decisions. Like, okay, if I'm going for a more human bipedal stance, then the posture and the pose is going to be more human-like, but everything else, like the hands, the paws, those things can be more animal. So the pose, the posture, the proportions can be more human, but the features themselves can be more animal-like, which I feel like is what you're going for. And then when it comes to clothing, I would highly recommend looking up some references for clothing that's kind of similar to this. And I do like that you're not outlining the folds, which is something that I do a lot as well. But you're instead indicating the folds through shadows. I do think that maybe it's going a little bit too, it's a little bit too winding, like it's kind of like weaving in and out in this like very organic S-type shape. So I think what would help is to just maybe pick one lighting direction, maybe from the left side or the right side, and so this way you don't have to shade everything. I'll show you an example that I did from when I think when I almost just started at Wing Canvas. I might not be sure. But it's a piece that I did of Ganondorf. Let me see if I can find it. I don't even know if it's this during this session. Oh, you know what? Oh, okay, I do have it here. So this is a piece that I did of Ganondorf in streetwear. And so this is what I mean when I say like I prefer much more to not indicate clothing folds with line work, but through shadows. But it also helps to pick a lighting direction. So when I did this piece here, I was like, okay, the lighting is only going to be on the right hand side, so all the lighting is only going to be on the right half of the figure. So you can kind of see here, I'm still drawing the fold lines, but most of the lighting and the distinction of lighting is only on the right half. And even on the arm, you can kind of see that I'm only carving the right part of it, but not the left part of it. And so same thing with the torso as well. It's just like the right part of the body and torso and chest and shoulders have lighting to it, whereas the left part doesn't really have it too much. And the other thing I would mention too is like try to keep your folds going in a consistent direct direction. So you can see with the body, it's all going in this V shape towards kind of like the belly button, I guess you could say. And then with the arms, it's kind of going more in this diagonal direction, except for when it gets to around here, because it starts to bunch up. That's when it starts to get a little bit more horizontal. Then you can add a bit more of those like S type of flows in the folds. But usually clothing folds are going to be fairly straight like this, especially if you're simplifying. Now this one I did go a bit more stylized, but the rule still applies of just like keeping it, like picking a direction. If you don't go for this rendered approach, let me see if I can find the other one Okay, so this one I didn't have any lighting to it, but again, it's kind of Zelda in more normal clothes that I did a long time ago. But you can kind of see this one a little bit more clearly, where the folds usually are very, very minimal, and you want to have it going in a very kind of direct direction and trajectory. So yeah, then you can even see it with the pants too, especially if it's supposed to be a bit looser and whatnot. But yeah. Yeah, it was based on actually like a photo reference. So I didn't make up the outfit, but I just kind of took the reference's outfit and I put Zelda's design on it. So for like the scarf here, I would maybe take away these folds and just add like 1 or 2 V kind of shapes, shadows on the kind of this scarf. And then for these ones, I would just take away pretty much all of these fold lines and just maybe add like 1 or 2, like 1 diagonal line going towards the body, and then the same thing on the other side. Have just like one diagonal line going this way, and then maybe one like fold going like this to match the curvature that would happen on the folds. And then for skirts, try to have the folds be actually very straight. So when it comes to let me see if I can find one that I did. I think I did this last year, this piece. Oh, okay. I can, here, I'll show you these two. So when it comes to drapery or folds that come straight down, here, let me move it this way. You'll notice that I tried very much to keep it very straight. And that's because when you wear dresses or skirts, the gravity is pulling them straight down. So it's very rare for it to kind of be swaying back and forth like an S shape. It's going to be very tube-like. So actually this fold type is called pipe folds because they come down very straight like cylinders and like pipes. And you can even see here with the fold. Whoops. Oh, actually this is a good one. So you can kind of see here, it's all straight. The breakdown for folds like this just kind of go in a very direct, uniform direction. It does not kind of move in an S-like way. It's almost like a fan, actually. You know those like pull-out fans that expand that you can carry around with you? It should kind of almost move in a very direct, simple direction. Here is another one that I kind of did in a more stylized piece here, where again, same thing, the folds that are happening here just go straight down. There's not a lot of back and forth S-like movements in folds, and it's the same over here as well, just goes in a very direct direction. They're all going, all the folds here, it may look messy and it may look kind of chaotic, but it's actually all going towards one singular point right here. It's just all expanding from that one direction. Yeah, fewer folds is actually much more important. And you can see here with the dress too, the way it comes down, it's just it goes straight down until it gets to the bottom, and then it makes these more like buckling shapes. So you want less of this noisiness in the folds, especially for like dresses like this, especially if it's just hanging straight down above the feet or above the ankles. It's not going to kind of go back and forth. It's actually just going to go straight down. So yeah, and I think that's it for all the lightning rounds. Yeah, and that's kind of it. Hope you guys enjoyed this feedback session. I know that we had a lot of submissions and didn't get to go over everything, but yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this one. While I end it, I guess I'll just put this up here while I talk so we don't have like an empty screen. I know Jiaran's probably like, oh my gosh, Josh loves this jellyfish character. Is the only one that I have like on hand immediately that I could pull up. If there's too much, it can feel busy and messy. Yeah, I think that's the best point to make when it comes to folds and clothes. Is like less is more, actually. I think I was maybe trying to have 1 foot farther forward, so I got a bit muddled. Oh, you know what? I would say even then, it would still be straight. It would just maybe expand and group up differently. Yeah. Let me see. I know I missed a few comments here and there. folds are easier to draw if there's a more direct light source. That's true too. Yeah. Reference would be good. Reference is always going to be good. Yeah. And Swag Ganondorf. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, he was also based on a reference too, so I didn't make up the outfit randomly, but yeah. And then Jack Fell Down, you said, clothes are another rabbit hole like color that scare me. Like, it's not only folds, which is difficult subject itself. There's also how different materials affect the folds and lighting. No, for sure. I feel like the best way to think about fold material is just that the looser the clothing is, like silk or linen, the more folds you'll get. Whereas bulkier clothing like canvas jackets, like a Carhartt work jacket or denim or a leather jacket even, usually they will have bigger folds and they're usually bulkier. And so I think that's just the best way to think about it. But normal clothes, it's kind of hard to find that balance. It definitely takes some time, some experimenting, but it's a good thing to think about. It's a good thing to start considering when you're drawing clothing, to not just draw clothing, but try to consider also the material that it's made with. Yeah, cool. The layered dress looks so good. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I feel like it was definitely based on all the layering that jellyfishes naturally have. So I was like, oh, okay, I feel like jellyfish should have, like, if she has like an outfit, it should move in the same way. But yeah, thank you all for joining today's stream. I know that we went a little bit long, but hope you guys enjoyed this one. We tried to have these every now and then. So yeah, definitely keep an eye out for whenever we do these special live stream events where we invite the audience to share what they're working on and to get some kind of feedback from us, because we actually provide feedback for our members. So if you want to maybe check out our different tiers, and maybe even like Patreon or School, that's SKOOL, where you get the opportunity to actually get feedback like this, but on our Discord. But like these special events here, we kind of host them for you guys. They're a little bit more far and few between, but if you guys want to, I don't know, get notified about it, definitely subscribe, definitely ring that notification bell so that you are aware of whenever we do these things. Subscribing and liking helps out a lot, and it's also one of the best ways to stay notified of when we do these streams. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this session. I will be uploading the drawovers onto the live stream channel over on Discord shortly. And the VOD will go up also once the stream ends. So if you want to rewatch your portion or just kind of pick up on things that I might have said that you might have missed, you can find them there. But yeah, hopefully you guys all enjoyed this. And if you guys want to check us out even further, just a reminder that we're also a school. So if you want to learn a little bit more, dive a little bit deeper on some of the topics that we mentioned here, like clothing and lighting and rendering, I actually cover a lot of these topics in my drawing and painting class, as well as some of the other classes that I teach, like cartooning and anime, digital art, and we even do a little bit of animation over on Mondays. So yeah, but if you're unable to make it, no worries. We always stream on Saturdays and on Mondays, but the best way to kind of keep in touch as to like when we stream and what we're streaming, definitely follow and subscribe to us, and let's just see what we're doing next time. Let's see what's in store. So the next time I stream will be on May. Oh wait, no, that's Faye. So Faye is going to be streaming next May on Star Wars Day. On Monday, we'll be doing Star Wars fan art, so ooh, that's a fun one. Keep an eye on that. And then the next time I'm streaming will be May 11th, and I will be drawing futuristic vehicles. So that's going to be fun. I feel like I've always wanted to do more futuristic vehicles, so that's going to be a fun stream. But yeah, thank you all for joining. And again, remember, follow us on Discord and on Instagram. Discord, we make a lot more announcements. So if you want to keep up to date as to what we're doing on our school side of things and our classes and other kind of like deals and offerings, Discord's kind of the best place to be. And Instagram's just a good way to keep updated with what we're doing, because we always share our demos there. Yeah, I think that's kind of it. Hope you guys have a good rest of the week, and I will see you all either in class or in the next stream. So yeah, bye bye everybody. Have a good day. Laters.